The sound of polished shoes clicking against marble floors echoed through the hallways of Earth Defense Command headquarters. Dr. Sarah Chen clutched her holographic projector tighter as she approached the imposing doors of the Grand Strategy Room. 20 years of theoretical physics and shipbuilding experience had led to this moment. Behind those doors sat the people who could either make her revolutionary design a reality or condemn humanity to fighting a losing war. The guards scanned her credentials, and the massive doors slid open with a soft hiss. The circular chamber was dimly lit, with the only significant illumination coming from the massive holographic display in its center. Around it sat the 12 members of the Defense Council, their faces cast in the blue glow of tactical displays showing the latest colonial losses. Admiral Helena Xavier, commander of the Earth Defense Fleet, looked up from her display. Dr. Chen, you've requested this emergency session claiming to have a solution to our current crisis. Given the situation, this had better be worth our time. Sarah activated her projector. Above the central table, a new image materialized. A starship unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Instead of the sleek, aggressive lines of traditional warships, this vessel was an intricate geometric pattern of crystalline structures and quantum resonance arrays. The murmuring started immediately. Sarah heard a poorly suppressed laugh from somewhere to her left. This, she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart, is the Phoenix. A quantum mirroring warship capable of turning our enemy's greatest strength into their ultimate weakness. Dr. Chen, interrupted Counselor Morrison, not bothering to hide his smirk. Are you suggesting we send our brave men and women into battle aboard a flying crystal palace? More laughter rippled through the chamber. Sarah had expected this reaction. She'd gotten the same response from every military contractor and shipyard engineer she'd shown the design to. But she also knew something they didn't. The crystalline structure isn't decorative, Counselor. It's a precisely calculated quantum resonance matrix. Each facet is designed to capture, amplify, and redirect energy at the quantum level. She manipulated the hologram, zooming in on one of the crystal arrays. When an enemy weapon strikes the Phoenix, the energy doesn't just impact a shield. It becomes part of our own weapon systems. Admiral Xavier leaned forward, her weathered face showing the first signs of interest. Explain. Traditional shields try to block or absorb enemy fire. The Phoenix does something different. Its quantum crystalline hull creates a state of temporal entanglement with incoming energy weapons. The more powerful the attack, the stronger the entanglement. We don't just absorb their shots. We mirror them, amplify them, and send them back. Impossible, declared Commander Richards, the head of R&D. The energy requirements alone would be provided by the enemy's own weapons. Sarah finished. She pulled up the simulation data she'd spent 3 years perfecting. The quantum mirroring effect creates a cascade reaction. Each hit makes the ship stronger, not weaker. The crystalline matrix stores the excess energy for later use. The chamber erupted in technical objections and dismissive comments. Sarah stood her ground, waiting for them to finish. She'd heard every possible objection during her years of development. But she had one card left to play, one that would silence even the harshest critics. 2 days ago, she said, her voice cutting through the chaos, we lost the Arcturus colony, 3,000 civilians dead. Our most advanced warships were torn apart by Nexus energy weapons in minutes. She paused, letting the grim reminder sink in. Yesterday, I successfully tested a prototype quantum mirror array against captured Nexus weapon technology. The room fell silent. Admiral Xavier's eyes narrowed. Where did you get access to Nexus weapons? From me. A new voice spoke. From the shadows at the back of the chamber emerged Fleet Admiral Yoshida, the most decorated officer in Earth's history. I authorized Dr. Chen's research 3 years ago, after reviewing her initial proposals. The test results are conclusive. A small-scale quantum mirror array didn't just survive a Nexus plasma cannon strike. It sent it back with twice the power. The council members sat in stunned silence. Admiral Yoshida's word carried weight that no amount of theoretical physics could match. The Phoenix isn't just another warship, Sarah continued, seizing the moment. It's a completely new paradigm of space combat. The Nexus Collective has been winning because their energy weapons are centuries ahead of our technology. But with quantum mirroring, their technological advantage becomes their greatest vulnerability. Admiral Xavier studied the holographic design with new eyes. The construction costs would be astronomical. The crystalline matrix alone would require less resources than replacing our entire fleet after it's destroyed by the Nexus. Admiral Yoshida interrupted. We've lost 3 colonies in 2 months. Earth itself could be next. We need solutions, not excuses. Sarah manipulated the hologram one final time, showing the internal systems. I've already solved the manufacturing challenges. The quantum crystalline structure can be grown rather than built, using modified asteroid mining techniques. Given proper resources, we could have a prototype ready in 8 months. 6 months, Admiral Xavier said quietly. All eyes turned to her. The latest intelligence suggests we have 6 months before the Nexus launches a major offensive. If we're going to try something radical, it needs to be ready by then. She looked at Sarah. Can you do it? Sarah thought of all the sleepless nights, all the failed simulations, all the breakthrough moments that had led to this. Give me the resources and a crew that's willing to think differently. I'll have your ship in 6 months. Admiral Xavier nodded slowly. You'll have them. But understand this. If you're wrong, if this doesn't work, we'll have wasted precious time and resources we can't afford to lose. And if I'm right, Sarah replied, we'll have a weapon that will make the Nexus regret ever attacking humanity. As the council chamber emptied, Admiral Yoshida approached Sarah. They're still skeptical, he said quietly. Most of them think this is a desperate gamble. Sarah watched her hologram of the Phoenix rotating slowly above the table. They're right. It is a gamble. But it's one based on sound physics and proven prototypes. And sometimes, she smiled, remembering all the times she'd been laughed out of offices and laboratories. The best solutions come from ideas everyone else thought were impossible. She gathered her materials, her mind already racing with the challenges ahead. 6 months to build humanity's most advanced warship. 6 months to prove that sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't the biggest gun, but the ability to turn an enemy's strength against them. 6 months to show everyone why they should have stopped laughing and started listening. The Phoenix would fly. And when it did, the Nexus Collective would learn an important lesson about underestimating human ingenuity. Sarah Chen had spent her career being dismissed and ridiculed. Now she would spend the next 6 months building something that would change the face of warfare forever. As she left the chamber, she allowed herself a small smile. Let them laugh. In 6 months, they'd understand why she named it the Phoenix. Like the mythical bird, humanity would rise from the ashes of defeat, transformed into something new and powerful. The quantum crystals would grow. The ship would be built, and the laughter would stop. The massive construction bay of the Titan lunar facility hummed with activity. Through the reinforced observation window, Dr. Sarah Chen watched as robotic arms carefully positioned another quantum crystal array into the growing framework of the Phoenix. The crystalline structures caught the harsh lunar light, creating rainbow refractions across the bay's walls. Growth rate is steady at 17% above projections, reported Dr. Marcus Wong, her chief crystallographer. The modified asteroid mining techniques are working better than we expected. The quantum resonance patterns are self-aligning exactly as your models predicted. Sarah nodded, but her attention was drawn to the tactical display on the far wall. Another red dot had appeared. The Coleman colony, population 12,000, had gone dark. The Nexus Collective was getting bolder, striking closer to Earth with each passing week. Dr. Chen. The sharp voice of Admiral Xavier cut through her thoughts. Sarah turned to find the Admiral striding into the observation room, her face grim. We need to talk about accelerating the timeline. Sarah's heart sank. Admiral, we're already pushing the crystal growth to its theoretical limits. if we rush the quantum alignment. The Nexus just destroyed our entire defense fleet at Coleman. Savior interrupted. 3 battleships, state-of-the-art. Gone in minutes. Their energy weapons are getting stronger. The Admiral's face softened slightly. Sarah, I backed your project because you promised me a ship that could turn their strength against them. How close are we? Sarah gestured to the construction bay. The Phoenix's distinctive shape was clearly visible now, its quantum crystalline hull about 60% complete. The basic structure will be done in 7 weeks, but the quantum mirroring systems need time to properly attune. Rush that, and we risk catastrophic cascade failure on the first engagement. Savior opened her mouth to respond, but was cut off by a priority alert. The tactical display flashed as a new situation developed. Sarah's blood ran cold as she saw the coordinates. Multiple Nexus warships detected entering the Proxima Centauri system. The AI announced. Earth Defense Force responding. Proxima Centauri, Earth's largest off-world colony. Population 3 million. The observation room erupted into activity as staff rushed to their stations. On the main screen, they watched as Earth's newest warships, the pride of the fleet, moved to intercept the Nexus attack force. Show them what our conventional ships can do, Savior muttered, her hands clenched into fists. The battle that followed would haunt Sarah's dreams for years to come. The Earth ships fought bravely, their tactics perfect, their crews performing exactly as trained. None of it mattered. The Nexus energy weapons had evolved again, their beams now carrying some kind of quantum phase variants that cut through Earth's most advanced shields like they weren't there. My God, Marcus whispered as they watched another Earth battleship split apart under Nexus fire. Their weapons, they're not just powerful, they're learning, adapting. Sarah's mind raced. The quantum variants she was seeing in the Nexus weapons matched some of her theoretical models. Their technology was advancing along paths she had predicted, which meant, Admiral, she said urgently, we need to modify the Phoenix's quantum matrix. The Nexus weapons are evolving exactly how I theorized they might, if we reconfigure the crystalline structure now, while it's still growing. Xavier turned from the tactical display, her face ashen after watching another ship die. What are you suggesting? A more complex quantum resonance pattern, riskier to implement, but capable of mirroring even these enhanced weapons. The basic theory is sound. We just need to. A new alert cut her off. The tactical display showed Nexus ships breaking through the defensive line. They were heading straight for the civilian centers of Proxima Centauri. How long? Savior asked, her voice hard. 3 months to implement the changes properly, Sarah replied. Maybe 2 if we. You have 6 weeks. Savior cut her off. Whatever you need. Resources, personnel, equipment, you'll have it. But 6 weeks is all I can give you. After that, she gestured to the tactical display, where more civilian centers were going dark. Sarah looked at the partially completed Phoenix, its crystalline hull gleaming with promise and warning. Understood, Admiral. But I'll need direct access to the quantum core. If we're going to do this, we do it right. For the next 6 weeks, Sarah barely left the construction bay. She slept in her office, ate at her desk, and spent every waking moment refining and implementing the new quantum resonance patterns. Her team worked in shifts around the clock, carefully growing and aligning the enhanced crystal matrices. The news from Proxima Centauri got worse each day. The Nexus were systematically destroying the colony's infrastructure, testing their weapons, learning with each attack. Earth's conventional forces fought desperately, but they were hopelessly outmatched. Finally, 5 weeks and 4 days into their accelerated schedule, Sarah stood in the construction bay, looking up at the completed Phoenix. The quantum crystalline hull hummed with potential, its enhanced resonance patterns creating subtle harmonics that made the air itself feel charge. Final systems check complete, Marcus reported. Quantum core is stable. Mirror arrays are aligned. We're as ready as we'll ever be. Sarah reached out and touched the crystalline hull. Under her fingers, she could feel the subtle vibrations of the quantum resonance field. Begin power-up sequence. Let's see if... The facility's alert system blared to life. Sarah rushed to the nearest display, her heart pounding. Multiple Nexus signatures had appeared just beyond lunar orbit. A massive fleet, larger than anything they'd encountered before. Admiral Xavier's voice came over the command channel. "Dr. Chen, please tell me the Phoenix is ready." Sarah looked at her creation, its quantum crystals pulsing with untested power. "The systems are operational, but we haven't run full combat simulations. We don't know if the Nexus fleet will reach Earth in less than 6 hours." Xavier interrupted. "They're not testing weapons anymore. This is a full invasion force." There was a pause. "Sarah, we're out of time. Can the Phoenix fight?" Sarah thought of all the modifications, all the theoretical models, all the untested systems. Then she thought of Proxima Centauri, of Coleman, of all the colonies lost while they worked. "Yes," she said firmly, "the Phoenix can fight. And the Nexus are about to learn why you don't push humanity to the breaking point." As emergency klaxons sounded throughout the facility, Sarah smiled grimly. The Nexus thought they had humanity on the run, thought their superior energy weapons made them invincible. They were about to discover just how wrong they were. The Phoenix would fly. And this time, humanity would do more than just survive. This time, they would show the galaxy why you should never, ever corner a species that turns its enemy's strength into its own power. The bridge of the Phoenix hummed with nervous energy as Sarah Chen strapped herself into the science officer's station. Around her, the hand-picked crew, volunteers who understood they might not survive the ship's first engagement, ran through final system checks. Captain Maya Rodriguez, a veteran of 3 major battles against the Nexus, stood at the command station. Her dark eyes studied the tactical displays showing the approaching Nexus fleet. "Dr. Chen, one last time. What exactly should we expect when they hit us?" Sarah's fingers danced across her console, monitoring the quantum harmonics. "The crystalline hull will create a temporal entanglement with their energy weapons. Each hit should feed power into our mirror arrays. In theory, we can redirect that energy with significantly increased amplitude." "In theory," Rodriguez repeated quietly. She'd lost her previous ship at Coleman Colony. "And if the theory's wrong, then we'll have given Earth's evacuation ships 6 more hours," Sarah replied. She didn't mention what they all knew, that evacuating billions of people was impossible. The Phoenix had to work. There was no other option. The tactical officer, Lieutenant James Park, suddenly straightened in his seat. Multiple Nexus vessels on approach vector. Energy signatures indicate weapons charging. Rodriguez took a deep breath. "All hands, battle stations. Dr. Chen, your quantum matrix better be ready to dance." The first Nexus shot came without warning. A brilliant beam of phase-shifted plasma that would have cut any other ship in half. It struck the Phoenix's crystalline hull dead center. Sarah held her breath, watching the quantum harmonics. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then her displays lit up with cascading energy patterns. The crystalline structure was singing, its quantum resonance patterns shifting and amplifying exactly as designed. "Direct hit," Park reported. "Hull integrity. Hull integrity increasing. Ma'am, the quantum field is actually getting stronger." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "The temporal entanglement is holding. Energy capture at 40% and rising. The crystal matrix is learning their weapon's frequency pattern." More Nexus ships opened fire, apparently confused by their first shot's failure. The Phoenix's hull blazed with absorbed energy, the quantum crystals channeling and storing each attack. Warning klaxons blared as power levels rose far beyond their simulated limits. "Dr. Chen," Rodriguez's voice was tense. "We're carrying enough absorbed energy to power a small city. Please tell me we can do something with it." Sarah's fingers flew across her console, directing the quantum flows. Mirror arrays aligned. "Captain, I'm routing weapon control to your station." The targeting system will show you where the crystal structure can create the strongest resonance effects. Rodriguez studied her tactical display. A Nexus heavy cruiser was moving into position, its main weapon ports glowing with charged energy. Let's show them what their own weapons feel like. Target that cruiser. Fire. The Phoenix's crystalline hull pulsed. A beam of pure energy, created from the Nexus' own attacks, lanced out. It struck the enemy cruiser shields and passed through them as if they weren't there. The quantum-entangled energy, amplified and focused by the mirror arrays, ripped through the Nexus ship's hull. Secondary explosions followed as its power systems overloaded. Direct hit, Park shouted. Enemy vessel destroyed. The bridge crew cheered, but Sarah was already focused on new energy readings. Multiple ships launching fighters, she reported. Their weapon signatures are changing. They're trying to adapt. Rodriguez nodded grimly. Let them try. Every change they make just teaches our quantum matrix something new. Helm, bring us about. Let's show them what else this ship can do. The next hour was chaos as the Phoenix engaged the Nexus fleet. Each enemy attack was absorbed, amplified, and returned with devastating effect. The quantum crystalline hull learned and adapted with each hit, becoming more efficient at energy capture and conversion. But the Nexus were learning too. Their attacks became more coordinated, trying to overwhelm the Phoenix's ability to process the incoming energy. Warning indicators flashed across Sarah's console as power levels approached critical limits. We're reaching maximum storage capacity, she warned. The quantum harmonics are becoming unstable. We need to vent excess energy ore. A massive blast from 3 Nexus ships struck simultaneously. The Phoenix shuddered as its crystal matrix struggled to contain the power surge. Warning sirens blared throughout the ship. Quantum core approaching critical. Sarah's fingers raced across her controls. The harmonics are cascading. We need tow. She stopped, staring at her readings. Wait. This pattern. Captain, I have an idea. But it's not in any of our simulations. It could tear the ship apart. Rodriguez looked at the tactical display. More Nexus ships were arriving every minute. Behind them, Earth's conventional forces were fighting desperately to protect the evacuation corridors. Will it hurt them more than it hurts us? Sarah nodded. If it works, it should create a quantum feedback loop through their entire battle group. But the stress on our crystal matrix. Do it, Rodriguez ordered. This ship was built to change the rules of warfare. Time to prove it. Sarah took a deep breath and began redirecting power flows. The quantum crystals hummed at frequencies that made the crew's teeth ache. Initiating cascade sequence. Captain, you'll want to fire everything we have at their command ship. The quantum resonance shoaled. The rest of her words were lost as the Phoenix unleashed its attack. Every joule of stored energy, every quantum-entangled particle, every bit of power they'd absorbed burst forth in a single devastating beam. It struck the Nexus command ship and continued through it, carrying the quantum resonance pattern to every ship connected by their tactical network. Space itself seemed to ripple as the quantum feedback loop took effect. Nexus ships began to break apart as their own energy weapons turned against them, amplified and reflected back by the Phoenix's final attack. When the energy storm cleared, nearly half the Nexus fleet was gone. The remaining ships were rapidly retreating, their weapon systems offline. Status report, Rodriguez called out, her voice hoarse. Crystal matrix is damaged but holding. Sarah reported, hardly believing her own readings. We're operational, but we'll need extensive repairs before we can attempt anything like that again. Dr. Chen, Rodriguez said quietly, I believe you just proved your theory about quantum mirroring technology. She gestured to the tactical display, where the remaining Nexus ships were jumping to hyperspace. And I think you just changed the course of this war. Sarah watched the quantum harmonics slowly stabilizing. The Phoenix had survived its trial by fire, proving that humanity's greatest weakness, their technological gap with the Nexus, could become their greatest strength. "Send word to Admiral Xavier," she said. "Tell her we're ready to begin full production of quantum crystalline ships." The Nexus thought they had us beaten. She smiled as she watched the last enemy ship flee. They just learned otherwise. Admiral Xavier stood before the massive holographic display in Earth Defense Command's war room, studying the tactical overlay. Around her, staff officers updated the status of the growing quantum crystal shipyards scattered across the solar system. In the 3 months since the Phoenix's historic victory, humanity had transformed itself from prey to predator. Shipyard 7 reports another successful crystal growth cycle, announced Colonel Hayes. The Defiant will be ready for quantum core installation within the week. Xavier nodded, her eyes fixed on the red markers showing known Nexus positions. The aliens had pulled back after their failed Earth assault, but intelligence suggested they were regrouping, adapting their strategies. They wouldn't stay passive for long. The war room doors slid open as Dr. Sarah Chen entered, followed by Captain Rodriguez. Both women looked exhausted but determined. The Phoenix had just returned from its 6th combat mission, each one more successful than the last. "Doctor, Captain," Xavier greeted them. "I trust you bring good news." "Better than good," Rodriguez replied, inserting a data crystal into the holographic display. New tactical data appeared, showing the results of their latest engagement. The quantum mirroring effect is becoming more efficient with each battle. The Nexus tried to counter with modulated frequency weapons. It just gave our crystal matrices more patterns to learn from. Sarah stepped forward, manipulating the display to show energy absorption rates. "The really interesting development is here." She highlighted a particular sequence. "The quantum harmonics are starting to predict Nexus weapon variations before they deploy them. We're not just adapting to their attacks. We're anticipating them." Xavier's eyes narrowed. "They're running out of options." "Not quite," Sarah cautioned. "We've intercepted transmissions suggesting they're developing some kind of quantum disruption technology. They're learning too. But," she smiled slightly, "we've learned something even more valuable." "Show her, Maya." Captain Rodriguez adjusted the display, bringing up a star chart marking Nexus fleet movements. "We've been analyzing the quantum resonance patterns from their weapons. Each ship leaves a unique signature in the crystalline matrix. We can track them now, even through hyperspace." Xavier straightened, suddenly understanding the implications. "You can find their staging areas." "Their shipyards." "Better," Sarah said. "We can find their home system." The quantum traces all lead back to the same sector of space, a place they've been very careful to keep hidden from us. The war room fell silent as the implications sank in. Since first contact, the Nexus had struck from the shadows, appearing and disappearing at will. Their home system's location had been their most closely guarded secret. "How many ships do we have ready?" Xavier asked quietly. Colonel Hayes consulted his datapad. "The Phoenix, obviously. The Defiant will be ready in 7 days. The Hyperion and Quantum Dawn are fully operational. 3 more will complete their quantum core initialization within 2 weeks." 7 ships, Xavier mused, against their entire home fleet. 7 ships that can turn their most powerful weapons against them, Rodriguez pointed out. "And we've learned a few new tricks, Dr. Chen." Sarah brought up the Phoenix's combat logs. "We've discovered that linking multiple quantum crystal ships creates a resonance effect. The energy absorption and amplification increase exponentially. 7 ships working in concert. The combined power would be beyond anything we tested." Xavier studied the data, her tactical mind working through the possibilities. "They'll expect us to stay defensive, to protect our remaining colonies. A strike at their home system would be the last thing they expect," Rodriguez finished. "They think they're the only ones who can strike from anywhere, who can appear without warning. Time to show them otherwise." The Admiral was quiet for a long moment, weighing the risks against the potential rewards. Finally, she looked up. "How soon can the Phoenix be ready to lead the attack?" "The crystal matrix is already regenerating from our last battle," Sarah replied. 48 hours for full combat capability. The other ships can synchronize their quantum cores during a hyperspace journey. Xavier nodded decisively. Colonel Hayes, begin preparations. Maximum secrecy. As far as anyone outside this room knows, we're strengthening our defensive positions. She turned to Rodriguez. Captain, you'll lead the strike force. Dr. Chen, I want you on the Phoenix. If anything goes wrong with the quantum systems, nothing will go wrong, Sarah said firmly. The Nexus taught us to think differently about space combat. Now they'll learn what happens when humanity stops playing by their rules. The next 48 hours were a blur of activity as the strike force prepared. Sarah worked with the other ships' engineering teams, fine-tuning their quantum matrices for maximum synchronization. The power they could generate together was theoretical, but the simulations were promising. Finally, the 7 ships of humanity's counter-strike force assembled in high Earth orbit. Their crystalline hulls caught the sunlight, creating spectacular prismatic displays that belied their deadly purpose. On the Phoenix's bridge, Captain Rodriguez studied the final mission briefings. Last chance to back out, Dr. Chen. We're about to take 7 experimental ships against the entire Nexus home fleet. Sarah checked the quantum harmonics one final time. The crystal matrices of all 7 ships were perfectly aligned, humming with potential energy. They came to our home and tried to destroy everything we built. Time to return the favor. Rodriguez smiled grimly. All ships, this is Strike Leader. Quantum cores synchronized. Begin hyperspace countdown. She looked at her crew, determination in her eyes. Let's show the Nexus what happens when they push humanity too far. The 7 ships vanished into hyperspace, their quantum drives leaving behind a crystalline resonance that made nearby sensors sing. They carried with them humanity's best technology, their finest crews, and the burning determination of a species that had learned to turn defeat into victory. The Nexus thought they had superior weapons, superior technology, superior tactics. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their ships or their weapons. It was in their ability to adapt, to take an enemy's greatest strength and forge it into something new and unexpected. The counter-strike had begun, and in the quantum crystalline heart of the Phoenix, Sarah Chen smiled. The Nexus had started this war thinking they were the teachers, showing humanity how helpless they were against advanced technology. They were about to discover who the real students had been all along. The Nexus home system blazed into view as 7 crystalline ships dropped out of hyperspace. 3 suns cast their light across massive orbital structures and countless warships, all of it reflecting off the quantum crystal hulls of humanity's strike force. Multiple contacts, Lieutenant Park announced from his tactical station aboard the Phoenix. I'm reading. Thousands of ships. Their orbital defense grid is unlike anything we've encountered. Captain Rodriguez studied the tactical display, her expression grim. Status of the quantum network. All ships reporting synchronized resonance patterns, Sarah Chen replied, monitoring the complex harmonics linking the 7 vessels. The combined matrix is stable. Energy absorption capacity at maximum. For a moment, there was absolute silence on the bridge. They had achieved complete surprise. The Nexus hadn't expected anyone to find their home system, let alone strike at it directly. That advantage wouldn't last long. Strike Force, this is Leader. Rodriguez broadcast to all 7 ships. Remember your training. Stay in formation. Let them come to us. She turned to Sarah. Doctor, I hope you're ready to make history. The Nexus response was immediate and overwhelming. Hundreds of ships broke orbit, their weapon systems charging. Energy readings spiked across Sarah's displays as the aliens brought their most powerful weapons to bear. They're deploying something new, Sarah reported, studying the quantum signatures. Energy patterns suggest. Yes, those are the quantum disruption weapons we detected. They think they found a counter to our technology. Rodriguez smiled grimly. Let's show them how wrong they are. All ships, activate quantum resonance fields. Execute Pattern Phoenix. The 7 human ships moved in perfect synchronization, their crystalline hulls beginning to pulse with stored energy. The quantum matrices that linked them hummed at frequencies that made space itself seem to vibrate. The first Nexus strike came like a tidal wave of pure energy. Hundreds of ships fired simultaneously, their quantum disruption weapons designed to shatter the crystalline hulls of the human vessels. Instead of destroying them, the massive energy barrage fed directly into the linked quantum network. Sarah's displays lit up with cascading power levels as the combined crystal matrices absorbed, amplified, and channeled the attack. Energy storage at 200% of theoretical maximum, she reported, her voice tight with excitement. The synchronized fields are multiplying the absorption rate exponentially. The more they hit us, the stronger we become, Rodriguez finished. All ships prepare for synchronized counterstrike. Target their orbital defense platforms. Fire. 7 crystalline ships fired as one. The energy they released, the Nexus' own weapons turned back on them, but amplified beyond measure, carved through space like a blade of pure light. Orbital defense platforms, designed to withstand any conventional attack, simply ceased to exist. Multiple enemy ships changing formation, Park reported. They're pulling back. No, they're trying to surround us. Sarah studied her quantum readings and suddenly understood. Captain, they're attempting to create a resonance trap. If they can surround us with quantum disruption fields on all sides, they think they can overload our crystal matrices. Rodriguez nodded. Time to show them what else we've learned. All ships, execute maneuver Omega. Doctor, ready for full spectrum release. The 7 human ships moved again, but this time they spread out while maintaining their quantum link. As the Nexus fleet surrounded them, the crystalline hulls began to pulse with stored energy. They're powering up for another mass barrage, Park warned. Energy readings off the scale. Sarah's fingers flew across her console, making final adjustments to the quantum harmonics. Field synchronization complete. Ready for full spectrum release on your command. The Nexus fleet opened fire from all directions, thousands of ships unleashing their full power. For a moment, the 7 human vessels were completely hidden in the storm of energy. Now, Rodriguez ordered. Sarah activated the sequence she'd spent months perfecting. The linked quantum matrices didn't just release their stored energy. They created a cascading resonance wave that expanded outward in all directions. The Nexus' own energy weapons, amplified and reflected through the crystalline network, turned their entire battle formation into a trap of their own making. Ships began to break apart as the quantum feedback loop touched them. Weapon systems overloaded. Power cores went critical. The mighty Nexus fleet, which had terrorized human space for so long, was being torn apart by its own strength turned against it. Message from the Nexus command hub. The communications officer reported, surprise in his voice. They're requesting cessation of hostilities. They want to talk. Rodriguez looked at Sarah. Doctor. Sarah checked her readings. The quantum matrices were still humming with stored power, ready to release another devastating wave. We've proven our point. Their most powerful weapons only make us stronger. They're scientists. They understand the implications. Rodriguez nodded slowly. All ships, hold position but maintain quantum link. Open a channel to their command hub. The main screen lit up, showing a Nexus High Commander. Its color-shifting eyes studied the human ships with what might have been respect. Your technology is unexpected, the commander said. We believed ourselves to be superior in all aspects of energy weapon design. Clearly, we were mistaken. Humanity has a long history of surprising those who underestimate us, Rodriguez replied. We're willing to discuss terms, but first you need to understand something. Every colony you destroyed, every life you took, thinking your superior weapons made you invincible. We can now do the same to you, but worse. Your own power turned against you. The Nexus commander was silent for a long moment. The concept is elegant, using our strength against us. We had become complacent in our technological superiority. Perhaps it is we who need to learn from you. Sarah stepped forward. We don't want to destroy you. Your science, your understanding of energy weapons, it's incredible. But you need to understand that humanity will never be your victim again. We're offering you a choice. Continue this war and watch your weapons tear your civilization apart, or work with us to build something new. The commander's eyes shifted through several colors before settling on a deep blue. You offer cooperation. After all we have done, we offer a future, Sarah replied. One where both our species can grow, can learn from each other. Your weapons are powerful, but we've shown you that power alone isn't enough. Sometimes the greatest strength comes from being able to adapt, to turn a weakness into an advantage. The quantum crystals hummed softly, their faceted surfaces reflecting the light of 3 suns across the battlefield. They were no longer just weapons. They were a symbol of humanity's greatest gift, the ability to take an enemy's strength and forge it into something unexpected, something revolutionary. The Nexus commander looked at the destruction around them, at the shattered remnants of their most powerful fleet. Perhaps it is time for a paradigm shift of our own. As negotiations began, Sarah watched the quantum harmonics slowly stabilizing. The technology she had created, born from desperate necessity and ridiculed by so many, had changed the balance of power in the galaxy. But more importantly, it had shown that sometimes the best way to win a war wasn't to build bigger weapons, but to think differently about power itself. The Phoenix and its sister ships stood watch over the Nexus home system, their crystalline hulls a constant reminder that humanity would never again be underestimated. They had been pushed to the brink of extinction, and in response, they had changed the rules of warfare itself. Let the galaxy laugh at humanity's strange ideas, their unconventional solutions. They would learn, as the Nexus had learned, that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe wasn't the strongest weapon. It was the ability to adapt, to transform, to turn defeat into victory. The paradigm had shifted, and the galaxy would never be the same.